What I wanted to do is, originally I wanted to talk more about some of those ideas and concepts and what we are thinking and how we want to move forward. But then I thought maybe it's better to actually talk about an example and talk about a step in the journey that we are taking at Footlocker. And so it's by no means something that is final. It's not perfect. There are lots of issues with it. But I think it's many steps in the right direction. So, and everybody's been asking me about it because it's a store that we started at Footlocker. We designed entirely with our internal team, in-house team. And then our friends at Nike, and I have two ex-colleagues there, Jerry and Jonas, who used to be at Nike when I was there, and who do great work. They worked on the Melrose store, by the way, which is a great store. I'm sure everybody has seen it. They got involved as well. They got excited because we were building a community store, and they wanted to be a part of it. And of course, there are great partners to Footlocker. So we decided to work together to introduce their Nike app in our store. And it's the first time that the Nike app actually works in a non-Nike store. So I think it's an interesting collaboration. It's just the beginning of it, and there's a lot of learning. And so I'll just go quickly through what we did with the store. And hopefully we'll have some time for questions later. So I saw this from this quote from Virgil Abloh, and I thought it's very interesting. Whenever I'm presented with a design project, the first thing I relate to is the context. So when we think of our community store, and by the way, this is a new format for Footlocker. It's a larger format. We're going into, sort of slightly underserved communities, but where we have amazing sneaker culture. So we need to think of the context. So how do you build a community? How do you start that process? For me, I'm an architect, so I start with the actual building. And this is what we got. And you see those people at the bottom of the screen, those are people on my team. And they kind of look very perplexed. They don't really know how to begin and where to start. And so if it was the old Footlocker, and if it was that old sort of cookie cutter mentality, we would just say, hey, let's just cover the whole building. The building is a shitty building, and we're going to let it go. We looked at it, and I thought, hey, even though it looks like it's falling, and some parts of it were falling, but I mean, look at it. It's an Art Deco building. It's a building from the 30s. It has the same spirit and the same look and feel as Rockefeller Center, right? Well, sort of. So how do you get rid of what America's kids did to the building? So what we wanted to do, and this is part of what we want to do from a company perspective, is when we talk about building community, when we talk about going into this community, investing in the community, is also about how do you bring back architecture? How do you bring back the street? How do you contribute to the we are investing, we're doing all kinds of things, but we don't want to do it in a heavy-handed way. We want to do it in a way that we consider local architecture. So this is one of our first drawings, and we start to look at it and say, okay, how do we clean it up? How do we bring it back to its old glory? How do we simplify, modernize, and create a store for ourselves? So what we did basically is that the whole top part, we renovated the terracotta. Those are terracotta tiles. And then what we did is we introduced a band, very simple, straight, and modern place to have local art. And local art is part of what we are trying to do also. We want to bring local artists to the store, to our locations, and have them contribute to the community. And I'll talk about that a little bit later. We also created a marquee sign where we have these letters that we can change. So, hey, if it's an athlete coming, welcome so-and-so. If it's the neighborhood, welcome to Washington Heights, which is really a very strong community in the upper section of Manhattan. And you see the actual store, and the marquee, the sign, the building itself. and at night. I think this is, I believe, the night before we actually opened the store. So it becomes really a sort of a presence on the street. If you guys go and see the street, it's just crazy stuff everywhere, and then suddenly you have this very clean and beautiful space. So getting into the actual project, on the right, you have the entrance, and you come in, and then what we wanted to do is create a grand staircase to take you upstairs. One of the first things we did is we did a research about the community. We actually did that research with Nike, and we figured out that, you know, how people shop, there are a lot of families, a lot of moms with strollers. So we decided to make this first floor kids and women, and then the second floor men. And then what we created also is we created like a sort of an activation space here, which I'll talk about a little bit more, which oversees the street as well here. And this is actually the picture of there's still a few pieces missing. This is just before we opened. But what I wanted to share with you is that, and when we talk about digital and analog and good design, I always think that good design is very important. And I think Ron said it yesterday as well. It's important, lighting is important, finishes, what people think and feel in a space. So when I look at that, what I wanted to create here is not just a transactional space, but a place where people can hang out. Hey, you want to meet me in Washington Heights on 181st Street? You could come to the Footlocker store because there's a lot of places where we can hang out. And also, by the way, we can sit, hang out, and charge our devices. So little things like this, which are more sort of, building spaces for people to meet. You sit here, and you face the entrance. You come in early, you're waiting for your friend, you're facing the door. As you look at, your friend comes in, you can go upstairs and shop. These are some of the things also I used when I was at Starbucks back in the day. So looking at the store again, you see that you have all of these places that are actually used really well in the store. People love stadium seating. And then you have a little area here as well for people to hang out. So, this store is really, again, going back to the sort of transition design for Footlocker. We're still using some of the fixtures that we had from the past, but what we did is we cleaned up the finishes, we cleaned up the graphics, cleaned up the signage, took away a lot of the black paint that we had from the back in the 90s and made it much more modern, much more clean, and a bright and clean space. Our thing is, our merchandise is so colorful that I think what we need to do is really edit the space so that the merchandise can pop. So you see some of the examples of that, and introducing new types of fixtures and new types of storytelling into the store. So beyond architecture, beyond store design and retail design, then what are the other things that we want to bring into the store, and how do we want to work? So what we like to do is work with local artists. So this guy here is Danny, and Danny was born in Washington Heights, lives in Washington Heights, and creates art in Washington Heights. He's known in the community, he's very well connected, so he's the person that we brought in to actually do all the art inside and outside the store. And we went through a process of selection to find Danny and bring him on board. He worked unbelievably long hours at night on that exterior mural, but he just created an amazing piece. As you can tell here, I wanted to share that because you can see more the detail of his mural, which is really, which not only is great because it's part of the community, but also is taking hints from some of the murals that were used in the 30s, because you can see some of the textures and some of the abstracts of the figures to be kind of like those murals that some of the murals in Rockefeller Center, for example. And you see here, this is the part that he drew by hand, and then he just started to paint going this way. And then he created local art on the inside. So this is all about the community. This is all about the heavily Dominican heritage of the area. And you can see some of the streets. This is a bodega that is very famous in the community. So there's a lot of sort of elements that make the store much more connect with the youth in Washington Heights. And this is one of my favorites, actually. I love this graphic. This is for the women dressing room. And I thought it's just really, really cool. Because what he did here is he took some of the elements, like this is called Uptown, which is something that they call themselves way up Uptown. But then he introduced women. He introduced also, he took some of the cues from Footlocker and our stripes, and then created this amazing, it's really super interesting, actually. So many people take pictures of this in the dressing rooms. And then we also, what we did is, this is probably one of the first times and only mural where we knew this is going to be with the Nike section. So we had the mural created, but we also added a nod to our friends at Nike here. So localized, working out all the details, introducing elements that make the store much more dynamic, make the store really, trying to be, of course it has the DNA of Footlocker, of course it's a big brand, of course we're selling, companies that are, very big and large companies, but at the same time we try to connect on a certain level with our young customers. So in addition to that, so that's all about, so if we start with the architecture, we start with the community, then we go into the local art, and then of course, another element is work with local brands. Go in the community and find out who is doing what, who are the young creators, who are the young fashion designers, and bring them on board. People that don't have access to retail space, don't have access to this type of stores, and help them and bring their product. And this product we brought in, we had 3 local brands introduced, and this is, I think, the day before we opened, and the next day they were all gone. We did the same in Detroit. We opened a store in Detroit in January, which was our first Powerstore. We're still sort of tweaking things. We had local creators from Detroit, and we literally can't have enough merchandise to have it even for a day or two. It just keeps, we have to help them to create more and give them tools to produce more so we can actually sell it, which is actually very exciting, I think, if you're a young designer. And stay out of Uptown. That's because the neighborhood is gentrifying and downtown people are moving uptown, so there's a whole movement about leave my neighborhood alone, stay out of Uptown. So all of these are very locally connected merchandise. And then we have the activation lounge, which we're doing in these type of stores. So we create, again, hangout spaces. Come and sit there. You can sit as long as you want. You can charge your phone, you can meet people, you can have activities. This is basically our activation lounge when there is no activation. And you can see again, furniture, everything moves around, and we have some of the graphics that I shared with you before on the walls. But then we also activate the space. So then there's music. For instance, this one is the Instagram, and I took this from the Instagram, some of the activities that happen in the store. Then you have back to school events, bringing people in again, and organizing events for the community. And it's funny because you can see here, and I took these randomly, but then I noticed this, look at the trying to give back. It's kind of funny how the people react to the store and to the events. We do a lot of events for women. We did an event in Detroit where we had a business event for young girls who want to start a company. But they don't know how to open a bank account, they don't know how to set up an LLC, they don't know how to get an accountant, a lawyer, so on and so forth. We organized that, and it happened to be when last year where there was that polar vortex in Detroit and everything was frozen. And what happened is that we thought nobody was going to show. So many people actually showed up. So many young women showed up to hear the story and understand and learn. And not only that, but then we sold over $25,000 of sneakers. So it's good business and it's good practice. Bringing kids. This is that same activation area. Kids love sneakers, right? But hey, do you know how sneakers are made? Do you know how sneakers are designed? Would you like to get into the sneaker business? Bring people and get them excited about the products. And the mobile touch points, and I'm running out of time, so I'm going to do it quickly. This is our cash wrap and our order online, pickup in store. Our friends at WD, it's by the entrance, so I know so you can't complain. I learned something from you. But anyway, it's there. And then the Nike app that we spoke about. So then when you bring that, and I spoke with Alistair yesterday, and he presented, and the idea that why would you really want to create very difficult and intricate technology at the store when people come in with that $1,000 device? I've been to the stores many times, and our stores, and look at how people shop. Our customer is 12 to 25, and they literally come in and they're FaceTiming. And they walk around and they show on FaceTime the footwear to their friends, and they're talking about it. It's not like, it's a very different way of shopping. So I think this was also a great combination of, hey, our design, our space, localization, artists, all these things, but the powerful Nike app. And this is some of the things that the Nike app does, right? You can scan a product, you can, and find out what are the sizes that are available in stock. If you don't have it in the store, there are other stores that have it, or you want to order it. Other colors are available. So there's a lot of that which is part of the Nike app. And then we have the shoe case and the unlock box. And the unlock box is something like this, is at the entrance of the store. And if you have the Nike app, you can come in, you can scan it, and you can get a free item. And it's a great way to bring people back to the store. I heard there are actually people outside the store paying people to download the app so they can come in, get something, and then give it back to them, and they can sell it. But those are kinks that we have to work out. People are entrepreneurs. And this is the shoe case. The shoe case shows you that one amazing shoe, that one amazing footwear that is coming out, and gives you an opportunity to get a ticket. You may or may not win. If you win the ticket, you win the shoe. So that's another thing, another way to, in my experience, and even when I was at Nike and now and in some other companies, the thing is, when you do a digital thing in the store, if it's just a big screen, it's like an iPad, it's just kind of boring. But if you do something when something happens and it's connected to some sort of kinetic thing, and the shoe, in this case, when you put your app, the shoe starts to turn, the lights flash, there's all kinds of things happening. So I think it's way more entertaining and connects way more when it's sort of analog and digital connected. So architecture and design, local artists, local brands, activation lounge, mobile digital touch points. And the reason why I put this is because for me, and for if there are any retail designers or retail development people, it's not enough to just design a beautiful store and walk away. There are so many other components in retail these days. It used to be, and when I started, and 20 years ago, all we cared about was, oh, look at our store, it's so amazing, it's the most gorgeous store in the world, and it's going to sell tons of stuff. But right now, if you're a retail designer, if you think about retail, you have to think about all of these things and more. And finally, local store associates. In these community stores, 80% of the staff is from the community. So again, another way to connect with the local community. And then you leave the store to these guys, and you hope for the best. Thank you.